Welcome to another edition of Just Unsecure, where we talk about information and cybersecurity matters as it relates to Africa. I'm Babs, and my co-host is OO. We're individuals that focus mostly on information security, and we're enthusiasts and evangelists for information security. This month is special. We're going to be coming to you directly with things, or should I say changes, that broke the internet. Yes, you heard me right. Changes that definitely broke the internet. So we'll focus on that throughout this whole session, and but mainly we'll talk about general things for this month. But things that broke the internet, just stick around to hear more about it. So for us in this month, we're going to focus on the vulnerabilities, the key top points of the vulnerabilities, the breaches, malware, some arrests that happen, and some good deeds. So let's get the ball rolling. I'll start off. Well, not me. Let's get my co-host starting off with this one. Hey, Yami, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be on board with you today to give you some of the key highlights in the month of June. As you know, May was packed with a lot of things. June was also packed. But we'll start first of all with vulnerability that we believe you need to look at right away to close. One of them was the 0-day that was announced by Google. 0-day on the Chrome. And they've announced several ones in the last few months, almost like 9 of them. But these actually have to do with the Chrome itself, which is a vulnerability. And the CVE that the title for it is 2021-30551. And I think if you need to update quickly. And this is around the version 8 of the open source system as well. So that should be closed. It's a 0-day. Don't forget, 0-day. So not like something that you'll be looking at. If Google call it 0-day, and we need to give it to Google. They've done a good job on that.
Yeah, I think the guy that found the vulnerability is actually part of the Google team. It's a part of Google project team that found it, and it affects both the JavaScript and there's another one, but it affects JavaScript and something else that basically allows remote attackers to take over. And like you said, Google will definitely put it out there for the patches to be, at least there's a patch. It came out with the 14 patches they released for this month. So it will be good for everyone who's using Chrome to definitely patch, like you said.
Absolutely.
Moving over, there's another one which is for Fortinet firewall. So
again,
another vulnerability out there. It's a high severity, and anyone with Fortinet, web application firewall to be specific, is vulnerable. The CVE that is being used to monitor the CV 2021-22-123. It has very high severity, and most of the version that it affects is version 3.6.3.8 to 6.2.4. So if you're within that version for your FortiWeb WAF, please ensure you get it patched.
Yeah. Next one is to quickly look at our title-related topic, which was the Fastly global outage, the internet outage in the month of June, in the beginning of June, that went for 50 minutes. And you think this is forever. We depended on the internet so much. So they said that they confirmed that the downtime was actually caused by some changes or bug fixes due to a customer changes, and that broke the internet. Any major company that you know in the world, from Amazon to CNN to all the key players in the industry, had a downtime of like 50 minutes. And this has to do with the content distribution network of Fastly, which has what you call a cache, or some people call it cache, or some people call it cache, servers around the world. So it depends on which country you are in. That depends on what you call it. But that's what happened. So how changes needs to be managed at that level. I know it will be sophisticated, but I don't know what actually happened for that 50 minutes.
But again, it brings to the point that either the chain management was not controlled, because listening to Fastly's VP engineer, he says they were aware of the bug, but it took different configuration settings for the bug to materialize. And it only took one customer to actually ensure that bug was materialized. So I think we actually pointed it out as well. So if you follow us on Twitter, you'll see the caption. I was trying to get onto, I think it was CNN, and I got, and I'm like, oh, this is weird. CNN is down. I went on BBC. BBC is down. So you guys, it's fact that it's not just us, and Fastly is the 7th largest service provider out there, apart from the Google, Amazon, and the code. They are the 7th largest. So trust me, there was an impact felt within the internet space. So
I'm sure some people have never heard about Fastly before.
100%. Until when they couldn't get access to their favorite news channel or any other services.
Fastly? Who is that? But that was the change that broke the internet in June.
Wow. The next one we have, which is of interest again, is another one, which is the VMware Center flaw. There's a vulnerability for VMware. They've released a patch. Luckily, there is a patch. It's 2 critical vulnerabilities, that remote code execution flaws. The 2 of them are being tracked by this CVE, which is 2021 21985 and CVE 2021 21986. It's very critical because it's actually a rating of 9.8 to 10. The CVE rating is 9.8 out of 10. Remember, 10 is the highest. So if they're putting in 9.8, it means if you're not patched and you get hacked, they would definitely take you down. So
Absolutely.
Please, the bug affects VMware vCentre and VMware Cloud Foundation. So if your organization or people within the information security space that actually use this service, it would be good to let them be aware that they need to patch or see within their organization if it's something they're actually using, so they patch it accordingly.
Most of the top Fortune 500 and any big organization do use VMware in one capacity or the other. The vSphere one is more like what you use to actually deploy those virtual machines and manage them. And the vMotion part is what you use to move it around. So a lot of these are exposed, especially at this time where a lot of our engineers work remotely. So definitely you expect some of these to be open and has to be fixed on time. Going to the next one now. Another one of the largest in history, the breaches of user credentials, password, and co. So this is now titled RockU 2021. Remember, there was a RockU back then in 2009 that had like 32 million. Then it was really big. 32 million accounts was leaked now.
Whoa.
So in total, that means in total that you can see around the world, combined with some of the breaches that have happened before now, you have like 8.4 billion accounts or passwords. So definitely, I think you and I, Babs, in one way or the other, we have a similar password that is currently exposed right now.
I will agree to that. I won't say yes or no.
Out of 8.4 billion, come on. Even if it's 4.2 or 4.7 billion, right? That means it's half of the world population. World population is like 7 billion, right? So let's say half of the population is exposed.
And for me, I tend to say people tend to think it's a joke until you get actually hacked or people actually use your username and password. If you have a database that much of a password, all you need is a username and try and guess the password. Trust me. they
And the
would
username is out
try.
there already. They've gained the hackers have gained the username from different ones, email and all that. So this is a good time for you to check, have I been pwned? Yeah, again, we always announce, check have I been pwned for your password or for your user's password or for your employee's password. Definitely, this is a point where you need to ask them whether to change their password, not those publicly available portals they've had access to or services. But beyond that, as individuals, as employees, as you and I, and our listeners, you need to go beyond changing your password to being a strong password. You can use any of the password managers to do that. But beyond that, you need to now have 2FA. That means multi-factor authentication, something else that you can use to secure your password, which is a second step to protect your identity. It's critical now more than ever. 8.4 billion database that the attackers can use to attack your single account is out there. This is a time to step up authentication. Yeah.
Definitely. Going, and this moves us again to another area. It was just even announced that EA, everybody knows EA. If you're a gamer like myself, you will definitely know EA is the Electronic Arts. They're the ones that developed the FIFA games and the Sims. So yes,
so anybody that is even not a gamer will know FIFA. We know FIFA games, and either your friend is playing it, or your husband or wife or spouse is playing it, or your kids are playing it. So
exactly. So they just came out to inform us that hackers did actually hack them, and there was a data breach of their source code and development kits. Luckily enough, what they've stated is no personal information, also known as PII, was extracted. However, out of the amount of data that was collected is close to 780 gig worth of data. So right now, even the hackers are taunting them, taking screenshots and saying they've got this data, but they are yet to confirm whether or not they've gotten any personal information of gamers out there. But EA is in kind of like, I won't say deep waters, because obviously if someone has your tools, someone has your source code, they can more or less, infringe on your patents and things like that, and it doesn't look good for them right now.
Yeah. Just on the sideline, something happened early last week thereabout, also in June, where it wasn't like I don't know if it's a breach, if it's a sleep. Microsoft have not confirmed it. Microsoft their new OS, Windows 11 was just released out there for me to download.
Yeah. Well, they must have been a target. They're always a target. Anytime they release any Windows OS, it's like some people are on a standby. It's even while they're doing it, some people are hacking it to send it out there. So, but you have to give it up to the likes of Microsoft, where they do put a lot into security, and because I read some of their cybersecurity architecture,
absolutely,
like that. So it's shall I say, cat and mouse game, good versus bad.
Luckily enough, even the software has not been weaponized. People just want to see what they are doing. I think some people just try to play with it, just like they did for remember the Game of Thrones when those guys hacked a particular computer to release the next episode. People couldn't wait for what is going to be on Windows 11. Okay. Let's just try to. So going to the next one. This is more like a military level kind of compromise, or where a cloud environment that belongs to NATO was partly compromised. And I'll give you to talk about that much more.
Okay, so I think I put it again as part of one of our earlier posts this month. Service company was hacked, and a cloud provider was hacked, and unfortunately, the NATO projects were also hosted on that cloud provider. I mean, which allowed them to compromise some of NATO's projects. So the platform known as NATO Service-Oriented Architecture and Identity Access Management, it was one of the 4 core projects of NATO's IT modification program. So information about it was leaked by a third party. So again, it's always a case of where we know, myself and Yemi always state this: ensure you do your due diligence on third party, ensure that they are doing security to the best of their ability, and again, supply chain, because
Absolutely.
once you trust, that is the beginning of failure.
Yeah. This is a wake-up call to national security, especially in Africa, bringing it home. Most of the guys that do projects for the organization like this are actually partners. Mm-hmm. Most of these projects are not done internally, so they rely heavily on contractors, highly vetted, especially when it comes to the kind of NATO, the US, and we don't know how much veto or security veto that is happening in Africa. Because this is almost shrouded in secret. It's not like you're released out there. So I believe at this moment, they need to look at the contractors. And I like the way the NATO is looking at it. NATO is trying to rebuild their environment. They're trying to employ service-oriented architecture, SOA, and they're trying to also modify their IDM. I think this is a key project that some of the regional security infrastructure need to look at in such a way to improve the security.
Yep, and the next one, looking at the attacks. This is a bit scary, but not, I'll say not as scary. It's a bit scary, but not as scary. It's a new TLS attack. Lets attackers launch cross-protocol attacks against secure sites. Now, everybody knows about TLS, and if people are telling you TLS is no longer secure, we're on TLS 1.2 now. We're looking at moving to TLS 1.3. Yeah. But if people are already trying to attack TLS 1.2, that is a problem for every security professional out there. The attacks have been dubbed, so it's called Alpaca. And Alpaca stands for Application Layer Protocol Confusion. So what they do literally is, in other words, is man in the middle attack, but they always ensure that you can compromise the victims at the TCP IP layer. So once they are able to get at that layer, they are able to get the TLS never reaches the intended recipient and is redirected, so they can now give, again, like I said, man in the middle attack. So they can always redirect the traffic and you think you're getting to the right site, and then they go send you to an FTP site where you actually get a fake domain. Everything look the same. But again, like I said, the prerequisite is that they must have access to the victim's TCP IP layer for this to materialize. But nonetheless, they found that there's almost 1.4 million servers out there that are actually susceptible to this kind of attack. That's the scary thing.
That's a scary thing, because some of the servers, of course, most of the web servers that are servicing the general public are open to the internet. So that is what we would be expected that will happen.
Before we move, just to let people know that there is a mitigation, so it's no need to be gloom and doom. So if you have your application layer protocol and a service identifier tied to your TLS, so every time the TLS wants to initiate the handshake, it kind of allows you know, okay, this is the protocol that is needed for this banking or this e-commerce site. It kind of, doesn't ensure that the man in the middle attack works, because they are going to redirect you to a platform that doesn't use the protocol required for your banking service or your e-commerce site. So just to let you guys know, there's always a good thing around the corner.
It's very tricky. That is bottom line is implementing security rightly, and also we being careful as well when we see redirections like why is this, especially when you have to do your payment, like, okay, this is not this is not owned by this organization anymore. Where's this going to? Well, it's a slippage though. Another one is good news for someone who is a company who's able to withstand some attack in the month. That is Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera is more like a media company, a news company compared to the likes of CNN. Not that they might not be at par, but at least in the Middle East and Africa, this is very strong. And they were attacked in the eve of trying to release one of their weekly series that is a little bit controversial, you can say, but it's highly watched, where they actually do those documentary, real thing, real news. And they were attacked severally. Nobody know whether it's linked to the documentary itself, but this came at the eve of it, and they were pounded for several days between the 6th and the 8th. And but they were able to withstand the attack. Both their websites, their media, everything was attacked. And they attributed that one of the key things they were able to get right, or being able to be as a line of defense, was their provider. So that means there was a flood of DDoS, a flood of APT, but I think their network was able to withstand it. No detail about what was done by the provider, but it was a good one that they were able to stay up.
That's a provider that ensures they had redundancy, load balancers, firewall, DDoS prevention. So it's you are, like, again, do your due diligence whenever you're looking for providers.
I was impressed when they said that they were able to withstand the attack. I was like, oh, that's a good one.
Good. Moving on to another topic, which is malware. So data and password stealing malware is spreading as usual, but now it's even crazier. People are using SEOs, but which is search engine optimization, to get malware into your devices. So what they've noticed is people get PDFs. Not people, I was threat actors get PDF laced with malware and kind of optimize search engines. So if you are looking for template for information security, template for finance, template for procurement, how to do something, and you come across a PDF, most people do it. But now is that people are now lacing those PDFs with malicious things, because once you get the answer to your question on the web, the next thing you're doing is click download. And once you download, you're downloading malicious malware into your system. And what they've actually noticed is that most of these attackers or hackers tend to use even pronounced platform like Google, AWS, and StrikeLane to host the malicious PDFs. So again, it's just a way of just telling people, take it easy, be careful of what you download over the internet, and always read what you download, because what you're downloading might not be what you want. Because once it's on your system, they tend to take over.
Bam. That's just it. Some things we always say, oh, free, but a lot of things are not free. In this age and time, yes, I think that time has passed.
If it's free, then you are the person you are selling.
You are setting the price.
You are setting the price. You get me?
Yeah. On a good note, also one of the improvements, everyone knows a lot of things that have been happening about malware distribution. Last month, we announced that the same group that compromised SolarWinds. So I remember that, Microsoft called them Athenian team and all that, and people have different things to call those guys. So the good news here is the site that they used, 2 domains that they used to spread that spear phishing emails, were captured and shut down. So those who have been taken over, so those had a little bit been mitigated. So that's a part of good news to people who are susceptible to that, especially people that always watch out for the NGOs. And NGOs are really special.
Yes, even better still is the way they went about getting into people's network, and it was a spear phishing was targeted, and whenever they got into people's network, they normally there's a well, I would say it is open. There's a hacking or a malware tool known as Cobalt that they actually ensure is downloaded on your system. And when Cobalt is either a tool or a malware, once it gets into your network, the whole point is to make sure it's persistent. It
Yeah.
stays on your network so that you don't remove it. It actually removes your antivirus and things like that. So that's what they were doing. So they try and ensure that they send, whenever they get into your organization, it interacts with the command center, and the command center launches enough malware into your network so that no matter how much you remove, they're still always there.
They're still there. But the major thing is to now try to see to mitigate the spread, and also the command and control center where this is reported back to. And seizing those two domains is a landmark win, at least to dance that pressure. But if you are infected already, I think you should be looking at a way to get out of your mobile phone, what have you, or even your laptop or your network.
We move to another topic. I think this is looking at all the updates and policies out there that of information security interest. So one of them is the Department of Justice recovers pipeline ransom, which we talked about in our earlier post. If you all remember, we talked about when the pipeline ransom in the US, the name
Colonial
was,
pipeline.
Yes, Colonial pipeline. So the U.S. Department of Justice announced that it recovered as much of the ransomware payment that Colonial Pipeline paid to free itself from the attack that derailed the oil and gas supplies operations for several months, which was last month. They recovered 2.3 million roughly out of the, is it 4 or 5?
4.4.
Well, out of the, $4.4 million paid. So good news and bad news. Good news is that we recovered the 2.3 million. So the Department of the U.S. government, Justice was able to recover that much back. The bad news is, some money is still out there, but trust the U.S. government to always ensure that they get almost all the penny and more back from the hackers. So the whole point is, just to let people know that the hackers do not always have a field day. They always go after, and it's our position, both as information security professionals, to always highlight this.
Yeah, and riding on the back of that, everybody have been thinking, what can we do to ransomware and all that? There's a lot of progress right now in which some ransomware group are locked down. Some of them, their servers are seized and all that. Quite good progress have been made in the month. But beyond that, I love what NIST did. So NIST have released a framework to guide every one of us against ransomware. Microsoft also released something in the month, just a little bit of improvement on their software to protect your PC. You might want to look at that for somewhere, but this is a guide for organizations. So the National Institute of Standards, which is a US organization, which is very popular in the industry. They've released a lot of things around risk, around all those framework that we use. They've released a new draft guide for ransomware protection or ransomware attack. I think that is worth looking at, which is a good development because this has not existed anywhere before. But right as we have other framework for risk and what have you, I think this is a good step, even for encryption, for defense of government properties and all that. A lot. If you have not heard about NIST before, there's a time to pick this up, especially if you are in charge of security in any organization.
Well, that takes us to another good deed, and this is actually a deed by Google. Google just released an open source vulnerability database. I think this is a very welcomed initiative, because open source is the future. And like we all know that open source gets more peer reviews than closed source. So open source tends to have more eyes on it. But the thing is, which no one wants to take on the responsibility of ensuring that all the vulnerabilities within an open source is listed. Yeah. Because if it's not listed, then it becomes...
There's not to address it.
Exactly. So now that it's listed, many organizations, small, medium, and even some large, will be more interested in taking some open source in-house and working with them, because the vulnerabilities will have a database that they can count on. The most important word is count on, that is deemed reliable. So if you have like your CV, you go to your CV database to know about the latest database. If you go to open source vulnerabilities, exactly, and you can actually trust it. It's something that everybody will be willing to try those tools, those source codes, because they know the vulnerabilities have been identified.
Absolutely. And this is a welcome development also, because of some of the open source vulnerability scanning tools can now have a CVV to link to CVV, an environment, a database to link into on call. Also some of our tools internal. But one of the key things that also gave a plus is because now for developers, or most of the programmers, most of the program for developers, the Go and some of those now have a database where the vulnerability is being reported. Another one that fall directly from Google as well is they also did an open source tools to be able to use the homomorphic encryption.
Yep, that's what we're talking about.
That was brilliant, because this has been in talk for almost like 10 years, like for like a decade. Everybody's saying the homomorphic encryption is the way to go. This is, for anyone that doesn't know, it's a simple time is the encryption that we have. You know, this symmetric, which you have only one key. You know the asymmetric, where you have the two keys. And the bottom line for those environments, you have to decrypt before you make modification to the data. But homomorphic, you don't need to decrypt. You can make changes to a part of the information, which protect the other ones that you don't have permission to. You can make changes to them, which provide a little bit of privacy. So you can imagine sharing your information with a company, and that organization can only make changes to what concerns them. They cannot make changes to your other data. They cannot view the other data. So that is brilliant.
The initial case why this wasn't adopted earlier was based on computing power, and computing power will tend to increase as the years goes by. And I think we'll see more use encryption as we go ahead in the cryptographic space. So it's a welcome development, and I'm sure Google is stepping, putting the bar high nowadays.
Putting the bar high, releasing the tool, and something to also even to try on their platform as well, where you can exploit on the computing power. So you can imagine just trying to review spelling check on an email.
Exactly.
Without having to, those are key, as in just simple use cases compared to what you now have in a health record and also genomics.
Makes the PCI, the HIPAA compliance a bit
GDPR, everything very good.
Will be far easier right now.
Yeah.
Well, if it's officially adopted, let's just put it. I think it's
that is the way to go right now. So you can imagine what we've talked about today. Most of the data that are being revealed. So you don't even need to care about where you put your data. So whatever is public, you can imagine if you do data classification. So whatever is public is public. Every other data is redacted, it's encrypted. And if I send data to you as an organization, it's only the part that I want you to make changes to that you have access to. Every other one is encrypted, and you don't have to think of decrypting the whole thing before you make changes. That's really good.
And I think we'll call that a wrap for this session. I'd like to thank everyone that listens, follows us. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We'll bring you more news, more updates, and more interviewers and more professionals to talk about information security and cybersecurity as it relates to Africa. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy, Babs.
And this is Double O, trying to say, guys, go to the channel, get the list, all the channels. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Cast. Go there, get the information, get whatever you need. We make it short to make it fun. And let us know what you think as well. You can email us as also juteam@justunsecure.com. And then answer your questions. Let us know what you really want to see in the next episode. Peace.
Take care, guys. Bye.